Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and a big welcome if you're new here. My name is Anna. I am a knitter and maker living in Seattle, Washington. And today I thought it would be fun to walk you through some of my favorite things from the year. I was planning to do some like vlogmasy kind of videos, and I'm just not very good at it. I'm not good at remembering to pick up my phone or my camera and take videos and talk to you guys, so I thought this would be a fun substitute, just talking you through some of my favorite knitting related things from the year, the favorite things that I've made, some of my favorite yarns I've used, favorite people I watch a lot of videos. These are just a selection, and then some other things like some of my favorite sewing patterns that I've made this year, and some of my favorite books I've read and things like that. I just thought it would be fun to share a little roundup of the most lovely things that I've spent time on this year. So if that's something that you would like to watch, then we're gonna get into it. So I'll start with the knitting things and then move on to other things as we go along. So I would say I'm gonna start with my two favorite sweaters that I've made this year, and I've kind of based this on favorite as in things that I've worn the most. I wouldn't say that these are like my favorite process knits, although I did really enjoy knitting both of these items. They're just the ones that I've been gravitating to quite a lot since I finished them, worn quite a lot. So that's where we're gonna start. And they both come from this pattern book, which is like a shining star of my year. I loved using this pattern book. This is the Sunnis Garn Dame or Soft for Women pattern book that was released in February of this year. I ordered this online from the UK. But actually I was in my local yarn store here in Seattle yesterday, and they had a few copies of this. So if you are still looking to get your hands on a copy of this book, check out the Tea Cozy Yarn Shop. You can either look on their website, send an email, or call, and I'm sure the owner's lovely. I'm sure she'd be willing to ship you a copy if you are still looking for this. I know she has at least two as of mid-December, so if you're still looking for this, you can find it there. Or I made a whole video with alternate pattern suggestions, kind of duping all the patterns in this book that I will link for you up here so that you can see if you're interested. But I really enjoyed knitting from this book. Lots of beautiful patterns, very like basics with interest. And I ended up making 4 patterns out of this book so far, and there is at least one more, if not 2, that I plan to do. So I've gotten some mileage out of it, and I'm really happy that I invested in it because I really enjoyed it. And my 2 favorite sweaters that I wear the most are from this book. And the first one is the first one I knit. I knit this back in May, and it is the Lou sweater, which in the pattern book looks like this. And this is my version. I knit it in Hillesvåg 4 garn, which is an unspun yarn from a Norwegian yarn producer, Hillesvåg. I bought the yarn when I was in Norway earlier this year, and I used 2 plates of it to knit this sweater. It is beautiful, and I'm really pleased with it. I've worn it quite a lot. It's like lightweight but warm. It is really comfortable to wear, really lovely, and I've really enjoyed wearing it. I knit it in the spring, and I've worn it. I wore it a bit before it got super warm in the summertime, and then I've been wearing it quite often this fall. It's like a sweatshirt almost is how I would describe it. It's lovely. And it has these beautiful raglan details, and then just these big wide sleeves. If I were to knit this again, the one thing I would do is put a little bit of a taper in the sleeves. These are quite wide, but I'm really pleased with it overall. And I've really enjoyed wearing it. I'm not sure if you can see, but there was kind of like a thin spot in the yarn, and I'm now noticing it more than I was before, but you can kind of see right here. The unspun yarn just got kind of thin towards the end of the ball, but that hasn't affected the way that it's worn at all. The yarn has worn really nicely. There is quite a bit of pilling around the arms. Not sure why you can see that, but it's quite a soft unspun yarn, so I think it's kind of to be expected, but overall it's worn really nicely. It's a lovely sweater. It's a very easy basic. The pattern is very straightforward. I mean, it's just basically a raglan, but it's lovely, and I've really enjoyed wearing it. I really enjoyed knitting it. I enjoyed working with the yarn. It's lovely and soft. It's way softer. It's probably the softest unspun yarn that I've worked with of the 3 or 4 different kinds that I've worked with. And I really enjoyed knitting with it. It's quite lovely, and I wear it all the time, so I'm really pleased with this. So that's my Lou sweater, which I really enjoyed. And if you want to buy, if you're based in the United States and you want to get Hillesvåg unspun yarn, there are no Hillesvåg wholesale distributors in the US, but Wet Coast Wools, which is a Canadian yarn store in Toronto, not in Toronto, in Vancouver, sells Hillesvåg forgarn. So if you would like to try that yarn, you can order it from there. They do ship to the US. So just PSA, if you're interested in trying it, it's a lovely yarn. My second favorite sweater of the year, which you probably have seen because I wore it in my last video or 2 videos ago, it is the Guernsey Genser from Miscellaneous Garn, and I forgot to grab it from my closet, so I'll put a picture of it here for you so you can see. It's a gorgeous textured structural sweater. It's very oversized. I love the fit of it. It's incredibly comfortable. I love the drop shoulder. I love the width of the sleeves. I like the length. It's really lovely, and I really enjoyed knitting it, and I really enjoy wearing it. It's very versatile. It's very comfortable. I knit it in a reclaimed yarn and had a really lovely time. I knit it in September or October. I think I finished it at the end of October, or mid-October, sometime in October. And I've really enjoyed wearing it ever since. I've gotten quite a lot of wear out of it. Super comfortable, super lovely. So that's my second favorite knit of the year, just because I've worn it so much and really enjoyed the process of making it. Yeah, so those are my 2 favorite knits. I've knit a lot of other things this year, and I will talk to you more about everything I've knit in an upcoming video. Probably my second video in January will be a roundup of everything that I've knit in 2022, the yarns that I used and how things have worn and all like that. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, it will be coming soon. But those are the probably my 2 favorite and most worn sweaters that I've made this year. And I've made like probably 8 or 10. So lots to choose from. Those are really lovely. All right, so my favorite yarns that I worked with this year. You probably will not be surprised by these choices. The first of which is lettlopi. I've actually worked with a lot of lopi this year. This was the first. In 2022, I worked with lettlopi for the first time. I had knit with purlwise last year and really enjoyed it. And then I ordered some lettlopi to make my Badger and Bloom sweater, which is this. So I made this sweater in January with lettlopi, and I absolutely love it. Lettlopi is a rustic yarn. I'm not going to say that it isn't, but I would say that lettlopi is less rustic than purlwise. I think it's because it's spun and plied, and especially this is knit at quite a loose gauge. It gives the yarn an opportunity to open up, and a lot of those like long guard hairs, which are the more prickly hairs of the lettlopi, kind of fall away a little bit. And I find that it's actually really quite soft, especially if you knit it at a loose gauge. So I really like it in this sweater. I also really like this sweater. I love the fit of it. This was the first sweater I knit in 2022, and I have gotten a good amount of wear out of it and really enjoy it. But the fabric is beautiful on this, so I really enjoyed working with lettlopi for this. I would definitely make another sweater with it, especially at a loose gauge. This is a 16 stitch gauge, which is quite loose, but I think a really good. It just feels, this yarn is so special, and if you've never knit fabric with it, I don't think you would understand, because in the ball, it's like not anything spectacular, but when you wash it, it just like the guard hairs kind of loosen up, and you can feel them, but the actual like wool itself gets almost this like velvety texture to it. It's absolutely stunning. It's just like not like other yarns I've used before, and it just feels like, it feels itchy when I put it on my face, but when I feel it in my hands, it just has this almost like a velvet-like quality to it. I think it's really special. It's so versatile. It's quite affordable. If you have never knit with lopi before, I would recommend it. And if you're nervous about knitting a sweater in lopi, then you can do what I did. And I knit a pair, which now I have lost. Where did they go? I knit a pair of socks with lettlopi. And these are so lovely. If you live somewhere that gets quite chilly in the winter, like me, or you just don't want to turn the heat on in your house because it's expensive right now, these are incredible. You get that same like silky, velvety quality in the yarn. It's not prickly on your feet. I wear these inside the house. I don't really wear these in shoes. like boots, so I'm not concerned about how they hold up against my feet. The bottom of the sock has kind of felted in a way that I feel like it's gonna be quite sturdy for quite a long time. They're just so lovely, and I love this color. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I just think it's gorgeous. I would knit a whole sweater in this color. Maybe next year I will. I just think it's so lovely, and I really enjoyed knitting these socks. They were super fast. I knit these on 3.5mm needles. I think I did 48 stitches, and if I were to do them again, I would do 44 stitches, but they're lovely. This pattern I followed is the basic bed socks, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. They're just a toe up sock with short row heel. They're wonderful. I want to knit more pairs. I bought this yarn in Iceland specifically to make socks with, and I've made one pair, and I have enough to make 2 or 3 more. So they're really lovely. So if you've never tried Lopi before and you're curious about it, I would say buy 2 balls and knit a pair of socks. Just feel the fabric and the way that it like transforms with blocking, and decide if it's something you could tolerate on your body, either with a t-shirt underneath or next to skin. I do both. I just think it's a really magical yarn. It's very special, and I've knit with it quite a lot this year and really, really enjoyed it. So lettlopi is always it has and always will be special, and I'm gonna keep knitting with it forever because I love it. The second yarn brand that I want to talk about is Briggs & Little. So you might have heard me talk about this quite recently because I ordered some of it from Maritime Family Fiber to work on this sweater. This is the anemone sweater, which I'm still working on. This is a sneak peek. I have yet to split for sleeves, but we've got a good amount of yoke going, and it's the contrast color in this sweater, and I really, really like this yarn. I bought a skein of it, a skein of the Briggs & Little Regal, last fall when I was at Wet Coast Wools in Vancouver. Oh my gosh. And this is a DK weight yarn, and I started a project with it earlier this year and ripped it out, but this yarn was delightful to work with. And then when I was looking for a yarn to knit the anemone sweater with, I went back to Briggs & Little. This is the Heritage base, which is the worsted weight. So I've got 2 qualities of it. They're both lovely. I think it's the same yarn, just spun a little slightly differently. But it's so nice. It is 100% wool, but it's not anything like Lopi. It's not super wash treated, so I guess you could say that it's rustic, but this is not scratchy. I think if you have any sort of, maybe if you had a wool sensitivity, it would feel scratchy to you, but the way that it's spun, it's like not super hairy, but it's so warm, and it's got like enough spinning oils in it to be soft, but it's not overly oily. I just think this is a really great workhorse yarn. I'm really excited to knit up more with it in this upcoming year. I'm going to make a Marseille sweater from Petite Knit with the green color. It's just lovely. It's a woolen spun yarn, so it's super lofty and bouncy and squishy. It would be beautiful for cables, beautiful for color work. I've just really enjoyed knitting with this yarn. So far, I've knit with now both of these this year and really enjoyed it. And then Briggs & Little also has an unspun yarn, which I made this top with. This is the Rubus Blouse square neck from Refined Knitwear. And I had to make some modifications to accommodate the yarn, but the knitting with this yarn has been a really lovely experience. The fabric is beautiful. It's a very soft, I would say it's a soft unspun yarn. It's got a little bit more toothiness than the Hilles Vogue, but it's not scratchy like Lopi. It's robust enough that I don't feel like I'm gonna break it when I knit it single-stranded. This is knit single-stranded, by the way, at a 19 stitch gauge, and it's a really lovely fabric. And I just overall really enjoyed working with this yarn as well. And I made this whole top with 1 cake of this Briggs & Little unspun yarn. So if you knit it single-stranded, it goes really far. I really enjoyed working with this so much that I bought more of it this year. So Briggs & Little is a wonderful yarn producer. They're sold in the US, they're sold in Canada. I'm not sure about beyond that, but they do ship internationally. At least Maritime Family Fiber ships across the US. There are many yarn stores in Canada that ship, or that stock and sell Briggs & Little, and I'm sure you could order it if you wanted to try it in another country. It's really amazing. So those were my favorite yarns that I worked with this year. Commercial yarns anyway. There were lots of other yarns that I worked with, some reclaimed and all sorts of stuff, but those are probably my favorite that you could buy if you wanted to, that I've worked with and really, really enjoyed. I did forget to say one more of my favorite knits of the year. I knit quite a lot of socks this year. I just really enjoy knitting socks. I find it very refreshing. It's like a great palette cleansing kind of a thing to do. And I knit probably 4 to 6 pairs of socks this year, quite a few. And I would say my favorite, these were another one of my favorite projects that I knit this year, not just socks, but like projects overall. And these are the Humleby socks from Fiber Tales. These are knit with 100% wool yarn that I hand dyed naturally with black tea. And so I love the color, and then I really love how the color works with the pattern. It has this beautiful eyelet lace and these little bumblebees on it. It's gorgeous. I love these socks. I love the fit of these socks. I've pretty much only I've knit quite a few socks this year, and the ones that I enjoyed the most were actually toe up, which I never thought I would be a toe up sock girl. But the Fleagle heel on these I really enjoy and would love to do again, and maybe just a pair of vanilla socks for myself. But yes, I really enjoyed the Fleagle heel. The fit on my foot is really nice. The instructions, there's great pattern support for this pattern. I just really enjoy Fiber Tales. I love her aesthetic. This is the first pattern of hers that I've knit, but I would definitely knit more of her patterns because it was a really lovely experience. And I'm just so pleased with these socks. They're so beautiful and so delicate. And I love them. They're just like one of the knitting things that I've made that I'm most proud of, because I dyed the yarn and like knit the socks, and they're just so beautiful. And I've worn these a couple times and they do still look really nice, even though, I mean, there's some pilling, but they're 100% wool socks. So I'm not surprised by that at all. I just think this actually, of everything that I've knit this year, this is one of my proudest projects that I've worked on. Okay, one more thing that I do want to mention, or two more things that I want to mention, knitting related, that I enjoyed this year. One of which are barber cords, which I'm sure you've heard about. They kind of grew in popularity quite quickly this year because they are really wonderful. And they're little like plastic tubing that you can use to put your stitches on hold. And you'll see that for my anemone sweater, my stitches are currently on hold on a barber cord. There are plenty of people that sell these like in yarn stores, and Petite Knit sells them and stuff. My version, I literally just got them at a big box craft store in they're like plastic tubing that you can use to make like keychains, and like they're like kids craft material, but it's just a hollow plastic tubing, and you can just stick the tip of your needle into the tube and then slide the stitches on here, and I can tie it in knots. And I feel perfectly fine like putting my stuff on hold and blocking with these because they're plastic. Nothing's gonna go wrong with them. They're wonderful. I really like these. They're like a game changer. You don't have to like pick up your stitches individually if you're putting on scrap yarn, or you don't have to worry about having enough cables for your interchangeable needles. Like I have these lying around. There's some right there that I had just taken a sleeve off of hold. Like they're wonderful. I use them for everything. I love them. Would highly, highly recommend these. They're very inexpensive, especially if you just buy a big thing of them at the craft store. They're worth spending your money on if you do a lot of sweater knitting, especially, and have to put stitches on hold. So these were wonderful. And then the other thing I want to mention from the year were my new Addi interchangeable needle tips. I use the Addi interchangeable needle system. I love it. I love the Addi clicks. I think they're wonderful. But this year I tried the Addi rockets. The tips are slightly pointier than the Addi turbos. So I'll show you. So the whole set that I have, this black set, is an Addi turbo interchangeable needle set that goes from 3.5 millimeters to 10 millimeters. But I bought 3 additional pairs of needles in 3.5, 4, and 4.5 because those are my most used sizes in the Addi rockets. And I'll show you up close so you can see. So these are the turbos, which the whole set is, and then these are my supplemental rockets. And you can see the tips are quite a lot longer and quite a lot pointier on the rockets. I find them so lovely to knit with. I love a sharp needle. I just find it helps me knit faster. It helps me not to split the yarn, or if I'm knitting with multiple strands, I don't lose a strand. It's just a really wonderful and very pleasant knitting experience to knit with these turbos. I really enjoy them. And like wherever I can, if I'm only knitting on one, if I only have one project with one of the turbos, like on a 3.5, 4, or 4.5, then I'm using the pointier needles these days. I bought extra sets because there have been many times where I'm knitting 2 sweaters at the same time, or 2 projects at the same time with the same size of needle. So I really enjoy these. I think if you're interested in getting an Addi interchangeable full set, go for the rockets over the turbos. If you like a pointy needle, if I had the full set of rockets, I would be very happy, but I'm not gonna like invest in a whole new set when I don't need like every size in this pointier needles. So I'm very happy that I've just spent the like $15 or $20 to get the extra tips, because they're incredible and I really like them. They are so pleasant to knit with. I love Addi. Overall, their customer service is incredible. I had 2 sets of needles that I needed to get replaced this year. My 3.5 and 4 millimeter needles I had knit with so much that I wore the finish off of the needles. And I mailed them. They have a lifetime warranty, so I mailed them in to Addi and they sent me replacement tips like super quickly. It was wonderful. I really love my Addi interchangeables, and I especially love the turbo tips that I have. So that is all the knitting related favorites that I have to share with you. I have a few sewing things that I want to talk to you about, because I have done quite a lot of sewing this year, and then some other lifey things to talk to you about. So I have done quite a lot of sewing this year, and I really feel like I've grown a lot as a sewist. I've gotten much better. I'm still not the best sewist, and I'm quite a lazy sewist, but I've improved quite a lot, and I'm really proud of a lot of the things that I've made this year. I've sewn for like a really long time, since I was a kid, as long if not longer than I've been knitting. Just like as a hobby, I used to make clothes for my dolls and like blankets and just like little scrappy things. But over the last couple of years, I think in 2020 I started like sewing nice clothes for myself. I sewed a little bit last year in 2021, but in 2022 I think I did the most garment sewing that I've done ever, and have worn a lot of the pieces that I've sewn, because I think I fall into the trap of like sewing things and then they don't turn out great and then I don't wear them. And I'm trying, my whole like month of October, or in like the fall fix along, was just trying to make sure that I'm making things that I enjoy. So all that to say, I did quite a lot of sewing this year, and I wanted to share with you my favorite pattern maker that I used this year, and show you a couple of the pieces that I made. By far and away, my favorite patterns that I made this year were by Hubbading Patterns, which is a New Zealand pattern designer. She does really lovely basic, she does mostly dresses, but she has some tops and pants and skirts as well. Her patterns are very affordable for sewing patterns. They're like comparably priced to knitting patterns, and the instructions are wonderful. The patterns are easy to follow. The whole process is wonderful, and I've just really, really enjoyed knitting her patterns. So much that I made the first dress of hers that I made twice. And it's the Faye dress, which here is the first version that I made. The Faye dress is a V-neck dress that's tiered with these big puffy sleeves. And this is the first one that I made. I'll put a picture in of me wearing it if you can't see it as well here, but it's a V-neck dress with these beautiful gathers. It goes to a knee length, and then it has these big voluminous sleeves. And this version I actually wore to my graduation from graduate school, and I'm really happy with it. I made this with, the fabric that I made this with was a bed sheet. It's a cotton polyester blend. I would rather it be 100% natural fibers, but it's a reclaimed fabric, so I don't mind. It's really floaty and wonderful, and when I found this fabric for the second one, I wanted to make the same dress again. So this is my second Faye dress, and it's in this really cute red gingham. So I think this is also a cotton polyester blend, or maybe it's only polyester, but I made this. So I made this one in June, and I made this one I made it when we lived in this house already. So probably in August, I think I made this. And it's a little bit shorter because I didn't have quite as much fabric, and so I had to make some slight modifications, but nothing huge. But I really like it. It's so cute and so flowy. Flowy dresses are a great place to start if you want to sew, because you don't have to worry about fitting it to you. So I made two Faye dresses, and then the other dress I've made from Hubbading that I really like is this. This is the Penelope dress, which might be a lot for some people, but I think it's really cute. It's got this lovely frill around the yoke, and then it's kind of an A-line skirt, and 3/4 sleeves that are just straight. This is made with a 100% cotton fabric. It was also a bed sheet in its former life, and it's kind of sheer, so you can see the light through it, but when you wear it, it's fine. It's very lightweight. It's very pretty. I wore this to a wedding this year, to a rehearsal dinner actually, and I wore the red gingham to a wedding. They're very simple to make, but they're like challenging enough that it's interesting. I just really enjoyed making her patterns this year. I will make more of them in the new year. I have this pink and orange big, like large check gingham duvet cover that I bought that I'm gonna make into a dress. She has like a very simple dress pattern that I think I'm gonna use that for, but I love her patterns. I really enjoy them. They're wonderful, they're simple, they're easy to follow, and I've just really enjoyed sewing them this year. So those were my favorite sewing projects of the year. Hubbarding patterns, she's really lovely. Yes, I've gotten lots of wear out of those, really enjoy those. So yeah, that's the sewing stuff I wanted to talk to you, just keeping it short and sweet. And then the last kind of knitting related thing or making related thing that I wanted to talk about before we move on to other stuff are just some of my favorite knitting content creators that I follow and watch their videos on YouTube. I follow many knitting content creators and love so many people. But these are just 3 of the many that I follow that I just get really excited whenever they post a new video and I want to watch it straight away, and I really enjoy their content. So the first one is Karoline's Knits, who is a Danish creator and she lives in Scotland. She's actually the first knitting podcaster that I ever watched, and she kind of got me hooked. I watched like all of her videos. She's wonderful. She's so kind. She's so like gentle and soft-spoken, but she makes really beautiful knitwear. She does a lot of just like my favorite things knitwear and just like very simple basics but in fun colors. She's very lovely to watch. I really enjoy her videos. I just find her delightful. The other person I really like to follow for a completely different aesthetic is Mel Makes Stuff. I love Melissa's videos. I've been watching her for quite a while now. I really enjoy her videos. She's like the queen of color work. She's incredible at color work. She actually just did a whole series about color work and has made tons of Marie Wallin patterns, and she's just like very knowledgeable and very skilled. She's very good at explaining things. She has informative videos, like educational videos on her channel, as well as like a general knitting podcasty kind of stuff. I really love her videos. I love her presence, and I just think she's really cool, and I want to be like her when I grow up. She's super cool, and she makes so many beautiful things. She also sews. She's awesome. So if you have not watched anything from Melissa, please do. I love her content. And then the last person I wanted to mention here, who is a newer podcaster. I think she has 5 or 6 videos, but I really also enjoy her videos. Her name is Claire from the Purlwise knitting podcast. She lives in Montreal, and she is also a knitter and a sewist. And I just really like the kind of variety of projects that she makes. She's been working on this Marit cardigan for months, and it's beautiful, and it was like very inspiring to me. She does like lots of pretty colors, and just like, I just really like her energy as well. She's kind of calm, but a little bit chaotic, and I like that a lot about her. She's so cute. She has a great haircut. She's lovely and adorable. And I really enjoyed her videos this year. So those were 3 of the many YouTubers that I follow and love, but people I wanted to share because they're a little bit smaller, may not have quite as big of a following, but really do make wonderful content. So yes, okay, that is it for the making side of things. I wanted to talk to you just very quickly about a couple more things from the year. I wanted to talk to you about some books that I really enjoyed this year, and then just a couple miscellaneouses at the end. So I listen to mostly audiobooks because I can do it while I'm knitting or while I'm commuting and knitting, doing other things. I really enjoy listening to audiobooks. And I got through quite a few this year. I would say I did between 20 and 30, which is okay, not great. I've done better, but I had a lot going on this year. I did write a whole master's thesis and start a new job. It's been kind of a wild year, which I guess I could talk about at the end. But all that to say is that I listened to quite a lot of audiobooks, and I listened to quite a few novels by Emily St. John Mandel, who you may have heard of before. She wrote some quite popular books: Sea of Tranquility, Glass Hotel, Station 11. She's a really wonderful writer. I really like the way that she approaches, like the way that she spreads her stories out over time, and the characters that she makes are really interesting and like deep with a lot of layers. And I just find her writing style really lovely. And so I've read 1, 2, 4 or 5 of her books this year. And my favorites of hers that I read were The Singer's Gun, which is one of her earlier books. That's probably my favorite of her books that I have read this year, and maybe one of my favorite books overall that I read this year. It's a really interesting story, and then you kind of learn about the characters out of order. And it's about, the main character is a man, but there are also several women that take, they're like strong characters in the book, and it is a lot about like relationships and motivations and right and wrong. It's like very morally ambiguous. I really enjoyed the story. I liked the ending a lot, and I just think she's a wonderful writer. So if you are looking for any books, try The Singer's Gun by Emily St. John Mandel. I also really liked Sea of Tranquility, which is another one of her books that I think is quite popular. It's pretty short. I think it was only 6 hours to listen to, and I listened to it pretty quickly, but it kind of follows a lot of different characters over time, and it's like one of those books where the pieces don't quite fall into place until like the last third or even the last quarter of the novel, but when you do, it's just like very satisfying and follows all of these different characters over all of these different times and is just really lovely. She does a great job of incorporating like history and science. She's like very genre bending, I would say. There's like history and science fiction and fantasy kind of, and it's just really cool to see the way that she puts stories together. So I really enjoyed reading her books. So The Singer's Gun and Sea of Tranquility were my favorites of hers from this year. And then another book that I really, really enjoyed that I read this year was Ghosts by Dolly Alderton, who is a British author. And it was I really enjoyed that book. I don't know, there was a lot in it about like relationships and female friendships in your 20s and 30s, and a lot of it just resonated with me, and like not knowing what you're doing with your life and feeling a bit aimless, and it was just really relatable, I think, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great book. I would recommend it. I would honestly read it again. I think I might sometime in the future, but Ghosts by Dolly Alderton was really wonderful. Okay, just the last few fun things to talk to you about before I do like a little roundup of the year. I did discover this year my favorite candy, my new favorite candy, and if you know me, I do like a good treat. I love a treat. But my younger sister introduced me, did she? I don't know, maybe I found them in the grocery store and then we just bonded over them. But it's the Nerds gummy clusters. I will show you a picture of them. They are so good. Nerds are an American candy. I don't think you can get them anywhere else in the world, but these are like, I'm sorry if you're not American, you don't know what I'm talking about, but these are like if you cut up a Nerds rope and then put them in a bag. They're so good. They're so good. I love them. I always have a bag open. I usually keep them at my desk at my office, which I don't go to very often because it helps me like pace my way through them. If they're there, I can't like scarf them all down, but you can get them in these little pouches. Gosh, they're so good. They're like my favorite candy of all time. I never want to be without them ever again in my life. And if they are discontinued, I will riot. They are so good. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at Walmart. Generally, I buy them at Walmart when I'm at a Walmart, which is not very often. So I stock up. So yes, check out the Nerds gummy clusters. They are delish. And then the last thing I wanted to mention from the year, was I just wanted to share, if you're interested, my Spotify Wrapped. I love listening to music, and I wouldn't say that my Spotify Wrapped is like groundbreaking. I pretty much listen to the same music I've listened to for like the last 10 years, but like the newer music that my favorite artists have put out. So if you're interested in listening to that, I will put a link to the playlist in the down bar below. So yeah, you can listen to my Spotify Wrapped if you're interested. I think it'd be fun. And if you want to leave me your Spotify Wrapped, I'd love to listen to some more music from some more different people. So yeah, that I think is a good place to stop. This has already gone on quite a lot longer than I expected it to. So just a smattering of favorite things from 2022, crafting related and not. Just to round out this video, just like reflecting back on my year, it was kind of a weird one. But I am really proud of a lot of things that I accomplished this year. I graduated with my master's degree, which was a very proud accomplishment. I wrote a whole thesis that was over 100 pages long that I am proud that I finished. I'm not sure that it was the best thing I could have written, and I think if I were to do it again, I would do it differently, and I think that's how most people who write a thesis would say the same thing. But I'm really proud of it. I worked really hard on it. I got a new job in a new industry, which is really exciting. And well, in the industry that I went to school for. And I've learned a lot at my job this year and made some new friends and really enjoyed that. I bought a house, which was really exciting. I mean, we bought a house. I bought it together with my husband, and very exciting to have our first home, and slowly think about how we're going to renovate it and make it our own. So yeah, it's been like quite an eventful year. I went on a wonderful trip to Scandinavia. I spent a lot of time with family this year, and I just feel very fortunate. So despite all the craziness of this year and like a lot of negative things that have happened, I'm very fortunate to have had a overall pretty good year, and to feel happy looking back on this year and feel like I was able to accomplish things and meet goals and feel proud of what I did this year. So it's a very satisfying feeling. I hope that you can reflect back on your year and find things to be proud of as well. Because there's always something to be proud of yourself for. And I'm looking forward to next year to keep learning, and keep doing new things, and keep making things, and keep reading books. So yeah, that is pretty much what I have to say. If there are any things that you discovered this year or just really enjoyed, I would love to hear about them in the comments below. I really do love reading your comments. It makes me feel very happy. I love hearing your feedback and your thoughts, and makes me feel very connected to you. So I'm not just talking to you to a camera in my living room. Like, there are people out there that enjoy watching these videos. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all of you who have been with me throughout this year, whether it's been for the whole year or just this is your first video. I appreciate having you. I appreciate your support. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas or Hanukkah or festive season. And I will see you guys again in the new year. I'm really excited to talk to you again soon. And I wish you all the best.